Under the Blanket by Corey. Looking back, I'd say I had a pretty enjoyable childhood. Nothing bad ever happened to me. I barely ever got sick, never broke any bones, or got into fights with my cousins when I visited. I was basically a picture-perfect child. Not to brag. Except one time when I was visiting my older cousin, I experienced the strangest event, and even today, I still can't tell myself that it was just my imagination. I was probably about 6 years old at the time, but I still remember everything about that night, like it was yesterday. I was climbing trees with my cousins most of the day, and when it got dark, we went inside. My aunt and uncle went out for dinner, so it was just us left in the old house. And then I suggested it. Let's play hide and seek. Sometimes I wonder how it would have been if I hadn't suggested that. Either way, it was Alex's turn to be it, first since he lost rock, paper, scissors, and Ray and I scattered to find a hiding place. First, I tried squeezing behind the sofa, my favorite hiding spot, but it was closer to the wall than normal. As lanky as I was, I couldn't fit that time. Alex was halfway done counting, so as a last resort, I ran into their bedroom and looked around, trying to find any place to hide. Obvious or not. Thankfully, the room was quite messy, so I figured that if I hid under the desk, I would blend in enough. Anything was better than being caught without a hiding spot. As I was about to dive under the desk, I noticed my other cousin, Ray, had already beat me there. I could see some of his long hair peeking out from underneath the blanket she was hiding under. Alex was almost done counting, so I had no choice but to join Ray. I said to let me into the blanket with her, but when I reached out to pull some of it over me, she scooted away. I scooted closer and reached out again, whispering a really big, "Please?" But she just jerked away to completely avoid my touch. Fine, I thought. I guess that's fair anyway, since she was there before me. It makes sense for me to be the one to be caught first. I teasily whispered that I could see her hair anyways, and she wrestled around in the blanket trying to cover it up. Not succeeding. When I looked around for my hiding spot, I could see that it was definitely a good place, with some boxes blocking the view of the door around the corner. So if someone just gave a quick glance over the room, they wouldn't have seen us. I leaned over and whispered how this was a really good hiding spot. Ray wrestled around under the blanket in response. Then suddenly, I heard Alex walk into the room. He looked around, checking under the bunk beds, right across from the desk. I held my breath. He got up and walked to the closet, checking in there, before going back out of the room. I let out a quiet sigh of relief and whispered to Ray how close that was. Ray wrestled around the blanket again. From outside the room, I heard both Alex and Ray shout the traditional "Ollie, ollie, oxen free" from the other room. So I started to get up, proud of not having lost hide and seek, and said, "Come on," to Ray, but she didn't move from under the blanket. That's when I realized that I had heard both of my cousins call for me to come out. I backtracked in my mind to realize that only my two cousins and I were home. Panic fell over me as I ran to the other room as fast as I could and saw both of my cousins standing right there. I tried to explain to them as fast as I could that someone else was in the room with me, and they, of course, being older, were reluctant to believe me. I tried pulling them to the hiding spot so I could prove to them, and it took some actual pulling, but I finally got them there. My heart sunk when we looked under the desk. The blanket was completely flat. My cousins laughed at me as I frantically searched the whole room, top to bottom, and secured the boxes next to the desk for any trace of the figure or anything I could have mistaken it for. No luck. It was gone, and still, many years later, I have no explanation of what it could have been, and frankly, I'm glad I never got to see what it was underneath that blanket.
I Could Have Died by Wicker in 28. About 8 years ago, I was feeling the desperation for wanting a boyfriend. I started meeting guys, lots of them. I was pretty reckless when I was younger. I didn't really care about my well-being. Had a lot of self-hate. I used to be a privatized cosmetologist for strippers in the town I was living in, Springfield, Oregon. I had a lot of girls wanting me to do their hair. I like that kind of work because I was able to meet guys. The wrong kind, but hey. I started a dialogue with this one guy. We'll call him Root Beer Owl. We was always instant messaging each other or like emailing each other through Yahoo. After a while I felt comfortable enough to give him my cell number. Things escalated pretty quickly. Root Beer Owl and I were talking a lot. After about a month I wanted to meet. I was getting very anxious, irritated that he was putting me off. I started flirting more to get his attention. Figures, it worked. He would want to see me nearly every night. I trusted him enough to let him know where I lived. People can genuinely be quite deceiving, and quite honestly, most have a hidden agenda. After a few months of hanging around, I was starting to get irritated that he didn't want to be exclusive. I mean, he was monopolising my time, preventing me from making money, and instead trying to coerce me with marijuana. I really started getting quite mad at this point. I didn't know what this guy's malfunction was. I would express how I felt all the time, and it would just fall on deaf ears. It would make me really, really angry, so irritated to the point that I would drop all communication for days. This specific night, Root Beer Owl and I were arguing via text. I told him I no longer wanted to see him, and for him to lose my number. I am at this point completely done with all of his head games. I stand my ground and again expressed myself. This conversation was starting to get very heated. I told him, I hope I never see you again. This pissed him off. He replied and told me,
"You should change your address, bitch."
Now that got me pissed. And I replied, if you're threatening me, you had best be prepared for the ramifications. Rupert Owl laughed and quit replying. I honestly thought that was the end of the conversation. 3 hours later, it's about midnight, 1 a.m. I was in the kitchen at the table, talking to my girlfriend on my phone and getting stoned in the dark. We were having our typical late night girl talk about guys and witchcraft. You know, the norm. Suddenly I hear a huge crash in my computer room. I watch my cat Frodo, who is at this point just a kitten, run out of the room and into my bedroom, skidding into multiple chairs in the hallway before running under my bed. I knew something really scared him though. I diverted my attention from my disturbed kitten to my computer room that had the huge crash emanate from within it. I'm at this point pissed off. My girlfriend, who was still on the phone, heard everything as I still had it in my hand. I ran out the front door without thinking, just yelling, ready to beat the fuck out of whoever was out there. Nobody was there, but I felt watched. I ran back inside and locked the door behind me. I then looked into my computer room and I see my huge plate window shattered inwards, and I see a big rock embedded in the wall opposite the window. Yikes. I informed my girlfriend, still on the phone with her, of everything I was seeing. She was freaking out the whole time. It is at this point she urges me to call the police. I tell her, I will in a minute. Just talk to me while I smoke another bar and I'll calm down. She giggled and indulged me. After about 10 minutes, I was telling my friend that I was going to call the police and hung up. I put all my marijuana stuff away, generously sprayed Febreze about, and then called 911. About 40-ish minutes later, a squad car shows up out front. I go to my breezeway door and wait for the police officer. He arrives to the front door. I turn the outside light on and greet him. He has to come inside and have a look at the crime scene. I oblige and I take him to the computer room, which is at the front of the house by the front door. After seeing the window, then the rock, he stopped everything and just looked at me. He told me,
If you had been sitting there and that had come through the window, you'd have knocked unconscious and probably bled out from blunt force trauma.
It was at least a 2-pound rock though. He asked me if I knew who did it. I showed him the text I was sent, his phone number and his Yahoo handle. For about 3-4 weeks after this happens, the police officer makes it a point to stop by at least twice a week. The guy in question that threw the rock from my window, I haven't spoken to him since and never ever want to see him again. But for reasons of my own, recently I moved back to the city where this all happened. I know, right? One was memory, the other imaginary. So which red letter did you think was trying to make fact out of fiction? Please comment below with your answers. I hope you enjoyed our first time collaboration. I did. I want to thank you, Madam Strange, for teaming up with me. That was awesome. Thank you to the story providers of this video, to you lot for listening, liking and subscribing. You're all awesome. /cheese toast. And always remember, if trouble comes your way, just try to make yourself look big.